You can draw this in Procreate. I will take you through all the steps of creating these colorful houses on hills. The great thing about this is that you can totally create your own version. Go wild creating different types of houses, picking the colors that you like, draw a variety of your favorite trees, and then add a bunch of flowers. I'm sure you'll end up with a great result. Now the canvas we're working on is 2,300 pixels by 3,000 pixels. The color palette is linked in the description, of course. It's totally free. And then if you're ready, let's get started. The first thing we'll do is draw a bunch of hills. I will use the studio pen for that. You can find it under inking. And well, the size doesn't really matter that much as long as the opacity is at 100%. Well, I have my size at 15%. And then for the color, let's go for this one. That's the 9th color in the first row. And I will start pretty high about here, and I will make a hilly shape like this. And then just drag your color underneath to fill it. Then we'll make a new layer on top of this. We'll tap the plus, and then we'll grab a different color, the 8th color in the first row. And I will make another hill shape. We'll go like this, we'll go down, and then we'll go up like this. And then drag the color underneath. And then we'll just repeat that step. We'll tap the plus. This time, let's grab this color, 10th color in the first row, just so we can clearly see the different hills. Let's start out here, go up, and then down, and then drag in the color. Always make sure that your line goes from the left side of your canvas, that it touches the left side, and then all the way to the right side, so that there's no gap. Then another layer. Let's tap the plus. Let's get this color, 9th color in the first row again. And then let's start here and make a bump like this. Drag in the color. Then another layer on top. We'll tap the plus. Then let's get this light color again, 8th color in the first row. And then we'll make a hill like this. Drag in the color. Then another layer on top. Let's tap the plus, and let's get this color again, 10th color in the first row, and let's make a nice hill like this. Then drag in the color again. Then we'll make another layer. Let's tap the plus, and this time let's get something bluish. Let's grab this color, 3rd color in the first row. And let's start here and make a hill shape like this. Then drag in the color and make another layer on top. We'll tap the plus. Let's get another blue. Let's use this one, 2nd color in the first row. And we'll make a hill shape like this. And drag in the color. So now we have all our hills, which we are going to fill with cute houses, trees, and flowers. But first, let's add a background color. Now let's tap the plus, drag that color all the way to the bottom. And there, let's put in this color, 1st color in the first row. Let's drag it on there. So we have a nice sky. Now we are going to add a texture and color variety to our hills. And we are going to do that by turning on alpha lock on these layers. Now you can tap the layer and then turn on alpha lock, or you can slide to the right on the layer to turn it on. You can see that little checkerboard pattern. And let's start all the way in the back with layer 1 here. And we have alpha lock turned on. You won't be able to paint outside of the shape, so that's super handy. Now for the brush, I'd like to go to my treasure chest brush pack. If you don't already have it, you can go to freefromflow.com to get it. It's totally free. And now for the brush, we are going to use the spackle brush. And for the color, we are just going to vary the colors. We are going to add these greens and yellows and sometimes blues. You can follow me or go for your own thing. First, let me use this one, 10th color in the first row. Let's set the size to 45%. The opacity is at 100%. And let's go over the lower area Adding some darker green, and at the top I'd like to go lighter. Let's use this color. That's the 7th color in the first row. Now let's go over there, add some of that, and then we can go even lighter with this one. That's the 6th color in the first row. And we could go even lighter with this one, 1st color in the 2nd row. Adding a really nice variety on this hill. Then let's go to the next one, layer 2. Let's first add some of this. A 9th color in the 1st row. Let's add some of that down here. We're just going to layer multiple colors on top of each other. Let's also use this one, 7th color in the 1st row. Getting a nice variety. And maybe some of this, 1st color in the 2nd row. And maybe also a little bit of this, 10th color in the 1st row. Just along that underside a bit. Of course, we also have this area. Let's go over there as well. Maybe we can add a bit of blue. Let's use this color, 4th color in the 1st row. A little bit of blue, maybe some lighter blue as well. This one, 2nd color in the 1st row. We can just mix these colors here. And then maybe some of this 9th color in the 1st row. Yeah, I like that. Let's move on to the next, layer 3. Over here, let's also add a bit of blue. Let's go for the 3rd color in the 1st row. Add some blue at the bottom. And at the top, let's use some of this. That's the 7th color in the 1st row. Adding a lighter touch. And then even lighter with this color, 6th color in the 1st row. Let's just nicely mix these colors. And then move on to layer 4. Over here, let's use this color, 10th color in the 1st row. Let's go over the underside, making rounded motions. And over here, let's also use some darker blue. Let's go for this one, 5th color in the 1st row. So you can really just play with all the colors in that 1st row, creating different varieties here for your hills. Let's also use this color, 6th color in the 1st row for a tiny touch of light. Then for layer 5, let's use this color, 10th color in the 1st row. Let's darken it up a bit. And over here, we can also use some blue. Let's use the 2nd color in the 1st row. And maybe a little bit of this 1st color in the 2nd row. A little bit at the top. And maybe a little bit more of this 10th color in the 1st row. I want variety, but I still want them to be like close to each other when it comes to the colors. So there's just slight variety between these hills. Then let's go to layer 6. First, let's use this color, 9th color in the 1st row. Add a bit to the top here. And then we'll switch to the 6th color in the first row and add some of that here at the top. Then we'll move to layer 7. Let's use this color, 10th color in the first row. Let's go over the underside. And at the top, we'll use this color again, 6th color in the first row. Making some rounded motions. And maybe we can add some brighter blue, maybe this one at the bottom, 4th color in the first row. That looks good. And then our final hill, layer 8. Let's first add some of this green, 9th color in the first row. It's a big area to cover, but we want some variety here as well. So rounded motions, covering that area a bit. Then let's use this color, 1st color in the first row, for some lighter touches right here at the top. And maybe a little bit of a darker blue, 4th color in the first row. Maybe a little bit here in the front. I think this will do nicely. And now it's time to add houses. To create our houses, I'd like to use our inking brush again, our studio pen. And for the colors, we'll be using most of these colors over here. Let's start with this one, 2nd color in the 2nd row. And we need to be on a layer underneath this one because the house will be behind that hill. So we'll tap this one, then we'll tap the plus, and then let's go in here. Let's create a line going up. Let's just create a very simple house shape. So first a shape like this. Make sure that it's closed at the bottom so you can drag in the color. And then for the side of the house, we'll make a shape like this. So it's in perspective. Let's just zoom out to check the size. Maybe we can make it just a little bit bigger. And if you need to tidy anything up for your house, you can tap and hold the eraser so that it switches to the studio pen. And then you can make some parts a bit more crisp if you like. And then for the roof, we'll make a layer underneath this. So we'll go here, then we'll tap the plus. And then for the color, let's use this one, 5th color in the first row. But you can go for any color you like. I'll make a line over here. Then a diagonal line, a little bit diagonal. And then create the roof right like this. So it's a very simple house shape. I'd like to make the roof maybe a little bit bigger. Let's go here. Let's tap the eraser. Now we can just erase a part. So we can add a little bit more blue to it. So we can go back here, grab the brush, fill in that area. And you can also use the eraser here to tidy it up. Make it more crisp, but I don't want these houses to be perfect. We go back to the brush. Let's make a little chimney. I don't want them to be perfect. I want them to be a little bit wonky, a little bit weird. So you don't have to put too much thought into them. Now let's make a layer behind these two hills. So we can go here. Now we can tap the plus. And you can play around with the colors. You can also go for this one, for instance, 4th color in the 2nd row. And then maybe there's a house over here. Pretty close to the other one. So we have that front and then the side like this. And you can either color it in by hand or you can drag in the color like this. And you can use the eraser to tidy things up. And then on a layer underneath, so first tap this, you can tap the plus. On a layer underneath, you can create the roof. Let's use this color for that. 7th color in the 2nd row. And you can add the roof like this. Very basic little house. Then let's make another one. Let's go back to this layer. This time, let's use this pink, 3rd color in the 2nd row. And then let's make a house over here. You can also make a different type of house. You can go for typical house shape like this. And then add to the left and to the right. So you get something like this. You might have to tidy it up a little bit, but keep it simple. And then make a layer underneath, or no, you don't have to make a layer, you need to go to the layer underneath. Let's grab that red again, 7th color in the 2nd row. And then let's add a simple roof with a shape like this. And perhaps a little chimney. And then just tidy it up with the eraser if it's needed. You can also go to this layer, use the eraser. Until you have a nice looking house. Next, let's make some houses on a layer underneath this and this hill. So we need to go down to this layer, then tap the plus. Then let's grab this 4th color in the 2nd row, and we can make an even a more simple house. You can go for like a block shape like this. And then you can make a layer underneath over here. Let's tap the plus. And for the color, let's use this purple, the 8th color in the 2nd row. And then just make a roof like this. And again, you can use the eraser, make it a bit more tidy. Just rotate your canvas. Do the same on this layer. Tidy it up. And then let's make another simple house over here. Let's use that lighter color again, 2nd color in the 2nd row, because you can also just create a house like this, just the front, just a simple house shape. Drag in the color, use the eraser to make it a bit more tidy if necessary. And then on that layer underneath, you can use that purple again with your brush and just add a thin little roof. Now just continue adding these house shapes to your scene until you have something like this. So you can see you can use various colors for the roofs, various shapes. And let me show you on what layers I have created these houses. So I have added houses on top of layer 2 and a house on top of layer 1. And then finally houses all the way at the bottom. So all the way in the back. Now for the next step, we are going to add some texture, and these houses also need doors and windows. So let's start with our house in the front. Let's go to this layer. Let's tap it and then turn on alpha lock. And then for our brush, we'll go back to the treasure chest brush pack And we'll use the round chalk brush. And then first, let's grab this color, fourth color in the second row. Let's make the brush a bit bigger, maybe 50%. Let's see. Let's add that to the side here to add a little bit of shadow. And then we'll make a layer on top of this. We'll tap the plus, and then well, you can use a variety of colors for the windows and the doors. Let's use this fourth color in the first row, but I totally encourage you to just play around with the colors. Let's make the brush small, like 2%. Let's make a door like this, just a rounded door. And then for the windows, you can use a variety of blues over here. So for instance, this one, second color in the first row, we'll just create two little squares or rectangles here. And let's also use this darker blue, fifth color in the first row for a window over here. Then we'll use the eraser, and I'd like to set the eraser to one of the brushes from the Treasure Chest brush pack, and that is the fine liner brush. Now the opacity should be at 100% and the size at 6. And then you can use this to tidy up the windows and also to add these lines. And this doesn't have to be tidy. It's nice if it's not, actually. I hope you're having fun so far. Now, if this drawing in Procreate is starting to turn into an addiction, then my Patreon page is the perfect place for you. It's great if you want to take your drawing and painting skills to the next level, because I have more than 200 tutorials over there. So go check that out. It would be great to see you there. I will just leave a link for you down in the description. But now let's continue. And then the extra thing you can do is tap this layer and then use alpha lock, and then you can use that round chalk brush again, and then you can add some variety. You could, for instance, add a bit of this darker blue, fourth color in the first row, to the top here to add some extra to these windows, or perhaps a little, well, let me grab the darker blue, fifth color in the first row, a little darker blue, little edge around a door. And then once you're happy with your windows and door, you can pinch these layers together. Then we can go to the roof here as well. You can tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and for instance, you can add some lighter stripes. You can go for the fourth color in the first row, and you can either use the round chalk brush or the fine liner brush to add texture to the roof. Perhaps just some lines. It's very subtle, but it'll add character to the house. And then once you're happy with the house, you can pinch these two layers together. So that way we can save some layer space. So now just continue working on the other houses, adding a little bit of shadow, some texture, windows and doors. And don't worry, you can also check out my completed illustration, which you can find through the link in the description if you are in need of inspiration. So once all of your houses are finished, it should look like this. And of course, you can take the details on these houses as far as you like. Maybe you would also like to add numbers, or maybe little brick details, or maybe some plants. This is really a chance to make it yours. Now in the next step, we are going to add all the trees. Let's start with some really basic trees in the background. We'll go all the way to the bottom over here, then we'll tap the plus. And then for the color, let's use this one, second color in the first row. And for the brush, we'll stick with the round chalk brush. But let's just make it a bit bigger. Maybe like 30%. And then let's just create some big cone-like shapes almost. Creating some really vague bushes or trees here in the background. Maybe a small one here. And also on this side, just these cone-like shapes. Just so we have a basic background. Then let's turn on alpha lock on this layer. Let's tap it, turn on alpha lock. Let's grab a darker blue, the fourth color in the first row, and just add a little bit of shading here. A little bit of that darker color, maybe some more rounded shapes. Also here. And then we'll make a layer on top of this. We'll tap the plus. Now we are going to create some trees. Let's start with some pine trees with this color, fifth color in the first row. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, maybe 20%. And let's create a very simple cone shape here. And another one here. Let's make the brush even smaller. Let's go for 10%. Then for some more trees, let's use this color, ninth color in the first row. And let's make a bit of like a cloud-like shape here. Just floating around. And then we'll do the same with this yellow color, sixth color in the first row. Let's make a nice big tree over here. Again, just like a cloud shape, simple cloud shape. And I also want a pink tree. Choose this color, ninth color in the second row. I'll put that over here. And this is also a chance to make this your own. Create your own versions of trees. Add your own colors or pick any of these colors. I'll choose the 8th color in the first row now. So you can make an entire unique configuration of trees here. You don't have to follow me exactly. And you can easily add more trees than I do, for example. So once you have these fluffs floating around, you can tap the layer and turn on alpha lock. And then first we're going to add some color variety. First, let's grab this color, 10th color in the second row. I like to use that for these pine trees at the bottom. And then we can switch to the fine liner brush and then pick that lighter color again, 5th color in the first row. And just make some lines going down here, just for some texture. Then we'll go back to the round chalk brush. And let's use this color, 8th color in the first row, to add some variety on this tree. Then let me use this color, 4th color in the second row on this one. Just making some rounded motions, adding that texture. For the pink tree, we can use this color, 3rd color in the second row. And for this one, we can use this color, 4th color in the second row, lighting it up a little bit. And what you can also do is, for instance, use this color, 6th color in the second row, make the brush nice and small, like 2 or 1%, and add little dots here. Maybe this tree has berries or apples. And for this one, we can use this color, 2nd color in the second row, and you can add these little dashes. This will add variety to your trees. Then for the tree trunks, we need a new layer. We'll tap the plus Then for the brush, we'll go back to the fine liner brush. And for the color, you can play around with this brown, with this blue, even lighter blue, and this dark blue for the tree branches and trunks. Let's start with this one. Fifth color in the third row. Opacity of the brush is at 100% and the size at 10%. And then let's create some tree trunks. Using light pressure as you move up. Just something like this. And then for this one, I'd like to use the fifth color in the first row. And just create simple branches. And then for our pink tree, we can use this color, fourth color in the first row. Just some simple branches. And for this one, I'd like to use this color again, fifth color in the first row. Creating simple trees. And I will just move to the front. If you're happy with your trees, you can pinch this together. If you need to save layer space, you can also pinch it together with the houses and with the background trees. But if that's not the case, then you can just keep it like this. Then I'd like to add some trees. Let's see, behind this hill, that's this one over here. So we'll make a layer underneath these houses. So we'll go over here, tap the plus, and we'll just add more variety, more trees. Let's use the round chalk brush again. And for the color, I'll grab this one, fourth color in the second row. And for instance, you could go for, well, let's make the brush a bit bigger, 8%. You can go for a shape like this, which is little dots, a bit more space in between, and create like a tree crown this way. And we can also use this color, fourth color in the first row. You can also make a tree that is a bit more solid, perhaps. A bit more shaped like this. This one is at the side. So this way you can vary with the tree shapes. Let's also use this color, third color in the third row for a tree right here in between. You can vary the sizes. You can vary this technique. All to get a nice mix of trees. Let's add one over here, maybe a pink one. Let's go for this color, first color in the third row. And maybe there's also a pink tree over here. And then let's go for a blue one, first color in the first row. And some trees might cover parts of some houses. Don't be afraid to do that. And then the next step again is to add some texture and color variety. So you can tap the layer, turn on alpha lock. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger, 13% perhaps. Let's use this second blue color. And we can add some of this blue just with the rounded motions. Let's do the same for our pink trees. We can use a bit of this ninth color in the second row. But you could also go for a lighter color like this one, third color in the second row. And then over here, let's use some of this color, seventh color in this first row. And for the tree on the right, let's use this color, 5th color in the 1st row. Adding some shading there. And again, you can also use light colors like the 2nd color in the 2nd row and the brush set to a small size. And then we can add some of these flicks. Maybe there are flowers in this tree. And also here. And maybe this one has, who knows, maybe some orange flowers or little things. You can really do whatever you like. Let's add some pink over here, 9th color in the 2nd row. And here I'd like to use this color, 4th color in the 2nd row. And then again, we need tree trunks. So we'll make a new layer on top. We'll tap the plus. We'll grab the fine liner brush and we'll use this blue, 5th color in the 1st row. Start here. And for this one, maybe something like this. You can vary a bit with the types of branches. For this one, I'd like to use the brown, the 5th color in the 3rd row. And don't forget to vary the pressure. You can use brown for this one as well. And then over here, I'll switch to the blue again, 5th color in the 1st row. And then this one. And then again, you can pinch these layers together, even with the houses, if you're happy with everything behind that hill. And then you can just move on to this layer over here, tap the plus, and start creating trees behind this hill. And just continue moving forward, adding a bunch of trees, and make sure that you create bigger trees as you move to the foreground. And then eventually it'll look something like this. Now the only thing our scene needs is a bunch of flowers and some clouds. So let's add those. Let's make a layer on top of the top layer. Let's tap the plus. And then let's pick this color, for instance, 4th color in the 3rd row. For our brush, we'll use the round chalk brush. Let me check the size. Let's set that to 8%. And then over here, we'll make some simple flowers nicely in our foreground. So we're making these oval shapes next to each other, creating a side view of a flower. And we'll make multiple colors. Let's also use this color, 2nd color in the 3rd row. Maybe there's one here. Very simple flowers over here. Let's also use some pink, this 3rd color in the 2nd row. But also here, you can play around, create your own version, making these a little bit smaller, like little tulips. Maybe one over here. And let's also use this color, 4th color in the 2nd row, to add even more. And then let's switch to this color, second color in the second row. And let's create some very simple, like daisy flowers. We're just creating simple flower shapes. And you can vary the size a bit, but overall just keep it simple. Also a few over here. And let's add some pink flowers in between. Let's use this color, third color in the second row. Just tiny little dots. Maybe here. Then we'll use this color, third color in the third row. And we'll just add these centers to our white little daisy flowers. We also need some texture on the other flowers. So let's turn on alpha lock on this layer. And then let's use this color, fourth color in the second row. Let's use that over here for some lines on it. And for this one, let's use the third color in the third row. Adding some lighter touches. And let's use this color, second color in the second row. You can just play around with these colors over here. And maybe some light on this flower. We just need some variety on these flowers. You can also use a fine liner brush. And let's use this pink, first color in the third row. Adding some extra details on these flowers. Next, let's make a layer on top, or we can actually also just work on the same layer. Let's just work on this layer. Let's keep the fine liner, and then let's use this color. Here, let's go for the blue. Let's go for this one. Fifth color in the first row, and let's add some stems. But before we do that, let's turn off alpha lock, otherwise we won't be able to do that. So let's tap the layer, turn off alpha lock, and then we'll add some stems to these flowers. So a little floofer thingy there, then a line down. Very simple. And some of these just kind of like disappear. Next, I'd like to make a layer underneath this one. So we'll go here, then tap the plus. And now we are going to add some grassy detail. Let's use this color, 10th color in the first row. And we can just go underneath here and add some of these lines. Maybe they're stems or grass. Nice little texture. And also here. And on this layer, we can also add some flowers in the background. Let's use our round chalk brush. And now we can just play around with the colors. We can use the second color in the second row. Let's make the brush small. And for instance, we can add some flowers here. Maybe here there are just some dots. just a suggestion of little flowers on these hills. You can play around with the colors. You can also use this orange third color in the third row. So add these little centers here. Maybe some more dots. Giving a hint of these flowers. Let's also use some pink. This color, 9th color in the second row. Just adding little dots, adding interest to the illustration. And you can go as far as you like with this. Maybe some in front of this house. We could also go for some red with the 7th color in the second row. Maybe in front of this house as well. We can also use some of this green 10th color in the first row. Or maybe some bushes in front of that house here as well. Or maybe here. But like I said, add as much as you like. I think it'll keep getting better and better. Now let's also add some clouds to our sky. We could actually do that on this layer. Let's grab that 2nd color in the 2nd row. As long as our clouds don't go behind anything, if you want your clouds to be behind a tree, then you need to make a layer at the bottom on top of your sky layer. But for now, we can go here. Make the brush a bit bigger, maybe 10%. And let's just make some fluffy clouds. Make rounded shapes at the top and keep the bottom a little bit more flat. So rounded motions, flat bottom. And over here. And a little one over here. And then we can call it finished. I hope you had fun. Leave a comment if you did, and I'll see you next time for the next tutorial.